Uh, yes. Might be pickled. Still we might. This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster. And we just completed the first half of season 1 of Star Trek Prodigy. And, well, not we, but they have. Yeah, and this is a Moral Star Part 2. And this is a review of it several hours after I watched it, because there was a gathering of the family members from Michigan and elsewhere. So, yeah, so anyway, so here is I'm going to attempt to do it. The second half of the story pits Gwen against the Deviner on the ship. He quickly recovers the proto material using the other version of the robot Dreadnought to beam the thing away. But the Dreadnought is caught on the planet in a very silly Trek way, and then they capture him, and they capture the Dreadnought and kill him on the planet, so, on the ship, on the other ship. Meanwhile, there's they fix the engines. Well, they try to use what happens. How they get the Protostar is they the Murph tries to fix the engine using it, and then Dreadnought is able to scan that and steal it from them. The minute they turned it on, he detected it. The Deviner reveals the story that probably that Trek Yards was on point about. It's sort of a weird time travel story, and the and the Deviner is from another reality or timeline in the future, in which a first contact destroys his race, leading to half of them joining Starfleet and half of them not. And then he got a hold of the ship, and Chakotay's ship, and somehow brought it back into time, and then gave birth to the progeny. And with an attempt to recreate the species from his offspring, with one person, one offspring. I was going to do that. But the Deviner tries to tell about this history to Gwen, but she is not here yet. And then there's and then the shields are up on the Protostar, which is returned to the mothership, and there's a fight, and Rael is able to beam onto the ship with the crew and try to rescue her. And the Medusan character is wounded, but she manages to blast the Deviner with her the Medusan powers. Apparently, you can't look at a Medusan from the classic Trek, or you go crazy. And the reflection of it zaps onto his communicator, and hits the other guy's communicator, and hits Gwen, and she loses her memory of the bad guy telling her that there's a weapon on the ship that's going to set off and destroy the Federation, and in the story. But she forgot, because that was erased from her mind, and she's kind of fucked up. So she's kind of messed up now, but she's not completely mad. She's kind of messed up. Yeah, so that's the basic plot of the story of Moral Star Part 2. Considering we're in the middle of the season, really, there's going to be 22 episodes. Hopefully this will come out on some kind of Blu-ray platform to get to see later. Nickelodeon will probably put it on Blu-ray, so you can see it later. I don't know where my copy of Lower Decks went, so I have to find it. I have a copy of Lower Decks somewhere. Maybe I'll just have to buy another one. Yeah, so but yeah, at the end we get a scene right out of Starship Chimera, or since this is supposed to be 2383, it's a scene out of Starship Chimera before Starship Chimera, because the Chimera story, 2019 story, took place in 2388. So they're in Chimera outfits right out of Chimera, and we see Admiral Janeway and a young Jadzia Dax, who appears to be Jadzia Dax, Ezra Dax as a helmsman, and a younger an Andorian. We see Imadmav, the Triple Andorian, in the background. He's in the background. triple blind door. And it looks like we have a Techite in the background as well. We have a Techite. We have a Techite in the background at the weapons console. So we have a Starcrackers crossover with Star Trek Starship Locations crossover on the Dauntless at the end. So Dauntless, the number on the Dauntless is based on the Dauntless from Hope and Fear. The USS Dauntless, NCC 80816. The Titan is 80801. 80201, I think. 80201. 80816 is quite a bit later. I'm thinking they're going to tie this into the Mars attack. That's what they're going to do. With the Mars attack in that timeline, in the Abrams reboot Discovery Picard timeline is really a separate timeline. And it's not Prime. It's supposed to be, but it really isn't. And so it's tied into that. And I suspect that the weapon would activate and destroy the fleet yards at Mars. Is what it's going to do. That's how they're going to tie that in. So they're going to sort of retcon it out that the Romulans didn't cause it. This Deviner guy from another timeline did. That's probably what they're going to do. That'd be my guess. That's just a guess. And maybe even the Romulan Star don't know it too. Well, they're all behind that somehow. One guy is going to cause all that to happen. Just like in, even though he's been driven mad at this point. So yeah, it's funky how like it's like that. And it's that may not be Ezra Dax, but it could be. She wouldn't be an ensign though. She'd be a lieutenant at that point. But they had to have a Mad Mav in there, so, and they do. It's Mad Mav, so a Mad Mav is in there, so it's cool. And a Techite. Not sure who he is. He could be named Asloth. That's possible. Which would be funny. She turns around and says, "Mr. Asloth, fire weapons." I'll be like, "Oh, okay. Mr. Asloth." Yeah. We knew all along you guys were ripping us off. And vice versa. That apple scene from the very beginning. Tossing up and down. And as I suggested back in the day, it's like, I suggested on the 30th anniversary thing, and we'll do a Mark's Cards one later for the Starcrackers, but on the 30th anniversary thing, because it is a month, we're going to do more, and we're going to do more of them. But also, as I suggested, that probably the main way that they were getting hold of the information post Pine Hill, or just near the end of Pine Hill in senior year and beyond, wasn't because they went to our school. It's because we went to Star Trek conventions. We started to go to Trekkie conventions in '87. And we kept going at them as long as they had them in the Bay Area until 2005. We went to them every summer and every spring, every time they had one. So there was the Star Trek conventions over and over again. It's almost a certainty there were Star Trek people at those conventions. Almost a certainty that they overheard us talking really loud. And some of them probably just said, "Oh, that kid's got a good idea. I'll jot that down. Notebook here. And go and put it in an episode of Star Trek later." That's almost certainly what was going on. Yeah, there's a scouting for new blood there. Especially after the writer's strike of 2007. 1987 writer's strike. Yeah, so, yeah. Prodigy is basically a version of Silly Trek. It's sort of the darker Silly Trek, ironically for the kids. Yeah, I don't know how reachable it is yet. 10 episodes in to the next generation, the current next generation, the post millennials. It's a little too. Well, it is like Star Wars Rebels, but there are elements of it that just it's too nostalgic for itself. I think if they had just. I like what they've done. It starts out a little stronger than Lower Decks did, because it's less relying on nostalgia. But part of the problem is they what's going here and there. It's sort of a nostalgia for Abrams nostalgia. It's not as big, JJ. It's not as big. Yours isn't as big. It might have been more popular, but it isn't as big. And there's a reason it looks like Star Wars, and looks like a cross between Rebels and Star Wars Rebels and Kingdom Hearts. There's a reason for that. And this scene with the Dauntless was like, yes, okay, a moment here. If they'd called it the Chimera, that it would have been too on the nose. So they're all called the Dauntless. How about that? Yeah, that's probably better. Yeah. So the Dauntless, the Chimera. It should have been the Chimera. Interestingly enough, the Starship Chimera is 82405, suggesting that it's 200 ship models away from that other one. 82405, and only roughly 5 years. They must have built a lot of ships. So yes, probably should have been a lower number, but we wanted a higher number. And there's the Emmett Till, which is 2277. Emmett Till. That's their story too. So the Emmett Till A, incidentally, is Tubman class. Based on the character Harriet Tubman is the Tubman class. Presumably, the Pathfinder ship is the Tubman, and there's told that there's an there's Martin Luther King, and there is a Emmett Till, and there's several other people named after the civil rights movement, which is awesome. But yes, and yeah, so. Anyway, so we have the Protostar, which Chakotay has disappeared from this timeline, if it's an alternate timeline. The evil Janeway hologram was actually a front. The Gwyn had figured out how to mess with it and fix it. The Rock Tog helps fix the engine on the mothership because she's gained super knowledge, and although some fans might argue, well, how could the Rock Girl do that? I know the timeline and all that and everything, but I say that's totally possible because, as I pointed out in my last story, in the last review, she probably has the rock person equivalent of a positronic brain. She's a silicon being. She's made out of rock and silicate and stuff. So she's like Data. She's just a kid, but she's Data. So yeah, she knows how to do all that stuff. It's not like she's just like a super genius or whatever, but she's still a kid. So it'd be like if Data built another kid, Rock. Yeah. So they're all going to be prodigies. And if it's the other timeline, then yeah. And apparently the guy who played the outrageous Akona is going to show up. In there's going to be like a thing between, like he keeps hitting off on one of the main characters or something. That's going to be creepy though, because like the guy playing the outrageous Akona is now in his 60s. It's going to be a little weird. They probably shouldn't do that unless he's hitting off on Janeway. That would be okay. But really, it should be Janeway or someone well over 40, because it's going to be weird. Yeah. Unless he's hitting off on the Medusa. That'd be interesting. Who is a dude? That's it. Anyway. Yes. Well, he does sound like Perceptor from Transformers. It's not the same guy. Oh yeah, there's a cameo by Kal Kat in the mining colony scene. Look for that. Kal Kat and Mark's cards, actually. Two of the miners are dressed up like the miners, and we discover we can talk to each other, and then we just kind of embrace. Oh my goodness! And then Rel's all like, "No, we gotta solve the universe. Stop that. Get down here." It's right out of Silly Track. I'm not saying the voice actors were us, but the characters were us. So, totally. And they were wearing masks, so they were properly COVID proper. COVID. Oh my goodness. Star crackers. Yeah, we're just Star. Yeah, let's come up with a story. To come up with a Starcracker spin-off story / adventure thing. Starship locations, basically, where Yeah, things will happen. Guest stars will be awesome. We will try to get Mr. Story back. We'll try to get Tim Cantrell back. Definitely. Try to get him back and put him on the show. Brian Story's never been in Starcrackers, but he's been in Silly Trek, Starship, and Chimera. He's part of the whole Chimera crew, so he's got to be in there somewhere. Cameo. But yes. So yeah, this is this was yeah, we're talking about Star Trek Prodigy here with the. Sure, it's great, and yeah, and we had our moment halfway through the season. We're embracing. We finally talk to each other. Yes, right out of Silly Track. I wouldn't be surprised if they showed up and there was a character named that. So is the cat girl the cat doctor from Lower Decks? No, it's a different person. Different, a younger person. No, actually, Lower Decks is closer to our stuff than this one is. But yeah, this scene with the crew is really cool, and I keep looking at it on the screen. But I'm gonna go in a minute and give you some tasty treats here. Dun, 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 dun.